I think the realest I've probably ever felt fear, and I hate to admit it now in retrospect, but it was actually right after the pandemic hit. There was so much uncertainty, and the questions about, like, you know, is it gonna take my kids? Is it gonna take my family? Like, how serious is it? And remember all that talk about, you know, this world will never be the same, and in some ways it's not, but the new normal, and it was like, well, it's gonna be, and all of it was terrible. It really was. And that fear that sort of was gripping my life at the time, I feel like God, and I'm sure, you know, God spoke to a lot of people during that time in different ways, but for me, it was almost like I call it airdropping this song idea to me. And during that season of fear, what God gave me in a song was not about fear. It was about hope. And I think that, I'm sure that there's some sort of philosophical statement about what's the opposite of fear. I think the opposite of fear is love, I think maybe. But I also think that the opposite of fear is hope. Just over the course of maybe a day, I got this song idea about hope. We look at all these pieces around us, and we can't see the whole picture. All we have are the pieces, and you're left with a choice. You can either sit in despair and fear and give up, or you can choose to hope. We don't put our hope in our next paycheck. We don't put our hope in, you know, whether or not, or in an election, or whether or not we're gonna actually get back to a new normal, you know, during the pandemic, or any of those things. As a Christian, we put our hope in Jesus. And that hope that we have is the ultimate nail in the coffin of fear.
I see these pieces around me, but I can never put them all together. And when the darkness surrounds me, I start to think that I will not get better. But I can find the hope even in the agony, and I can find the peace even in the tragedy. When my heart is weary eyes, would you help my unbelief, so I can find the hope, because you promised me. You promised hope, you promised light, you promised a future, you promised life, you promised peace, you promised love. Oh, and you keep your promises, so I can find the hope.